a brief comment on the rise of Jackson Hinkle and what winning looks like. Recently, Jackson Hinkle, who has been suspended from his YouTube account, has seen a meteoric rise in his popularity on Twitter, surpassing over 1 million followers. I even messaged to congratulate him because why not? But I also messaged him because I believe in the younger generation, even if I don't always agree with them. However, there seems to be some confusion by both his detractors and proponents. I am neither. I don't know him and he doesn't know me. I do know that he is not a white supremacist, a Nazi, or a fascist. He may believe in fascist economic policies, but this in and of itself doesn't make him a fascist, just slightly ignorant on New Dealist type programs. I only mean to emphasize a few points that I had noticed. First, the left, those criticizing Jackson, are doing so from a point of utter failure. They've never tasted victory, have never admitted defeat, and their suspicion of Jackson is somewhat based in their own insecurities and anachronistic strategies. Check what these accounts had to say about him. One says, "This guy is a white nationalist grifter who is now seeking to profit off of the new followers he's gained in the last 2 weeks." Which is just a rehash of what this person has said. Jackson Hinkle is quite literally a Nazi. Boost an actual Palestinian. Another says, "There is nothing you will ever say that will deny me the evidence of my own eyes and ears of listening to Jackson Hinkle be a Nazi and spout Nazi talking points on Nazi programs." Others have labeled him as something else altogether. Jackson Hinkle is a fascist, and you should not be engaging with him or any other patsock. On the supportive side, they believe this is a monumental leap forward for so-called American communism and even having real change on foreign policy and state military action. In response to the first person's tweet. Translation: Jackson Hinkle has done more damage to Zionism and U.S. foreign policy in 2 weeks than the entire electric intifada has in 20 years. Aren't you just ineffective comparatively? This coming from a Chicago upper-middle-class university white lady touting BDS. And here is more over-exuberance. Jackson Hinkle has single-handedly cemented into existence the long-term viability of infrared in the hashtag CPUSA 2036 initiative. Then there is Jackson himself, who bases any material, concrete, tangible gains on this issue by the same meaningless metrics. He says in one tweet, "We have ratioed President Biden 9 times in the past 24 hours, exposing his Zionist lies. Defund Israel at POTUS." I want to address all three. In the former cases, leftists are, in plain speak, losers, and sore ones at that. They have never won anything in their lives as communists or socialists. They wouldn't know what it looked like. I do not believe Jackson is a fascist, white nationalist, or Nazi. Those are pretty heavy allegations, and you should come with better receipts than selectively edited clips or fabricated tweets. However, his rise in popularity on Twitter is not the boon infrared members think it is. If that's true, show me anywhere he prevented 1 single cent from being sent to Ukraine or Israel, his 2 biggest areas of coverage. Prove to me his actual impact on foreign policy. Has the State Department and the Department of Defense shown any signs that they are cowering behind a social media influencer? I've seen no evidence of this. I've only seen evidence that his account has grown. As for Jackson himself, ratioing the president, i.e. the intern who runs his account, no matter how many times you do it, doesn't prevent the weapons of war from being produced nor distributed. A 10th one or 20th ratio will not change anything materially. This is the mentality of people raised on video games and online culture in general, where to win could mean something as insignificant as claiming you won a debate in some back and forth with someone who disagrees with you on social media. We need to all have a touch grass moment and understand what the scoreboard for communists truly is in the 21st century. It is not about the info wars, social media growth, or other such Pyrrhic victories. This has no impact on infrared, a still online group, and those who believe it does are deluding themselves, but even worse, setting themselves up for the same failures of the left, who used to have domination over the discourse until recently. Our metric, our scoreboard, is deficit spending and a balanced budget. When those go to zero, we all win. In a blog post I wrote about Jackson Hinkle called The Potential of Jackson Hinkle, I mentioned that his real impact could exist in speaking to his generation about the state and how they've no future but poverty under it. However, in regards to the left, he could use his reach to speak with leftists on why a balanced budget should be at the top of their priorities, and that they could even work with and within MAGA as communists and even still with their own parties to aid in this. Jackson doesn't need to convince middle America about communism. They're going to accidentally induce it just by gutting social spending and tapering deficits, should they ever get control of government again under a true MAGA Congress. Reaching people around the world is a, sorry to say, fruitless endeavor. America is the only state that matters, since they are the world reserve currency and we absorb global absolute overaccumulation in the form of these deficits. Labor theory, in other words, has been reducible to a single issue. Get rid of deficits and thus get rid of capital and value as a form of historically specific social wealth. This would cripple the state, as the excess profits of every nation and capitalist is plowed into Washington for some cheap dividends, recycled and turned over, and restarted again. The detractors and hype men of Hinkle are two sides of the same coin in this instance. The former can't accept defeat, and the latter doesn't actually understand what victory looks like. This is leftism in a nutshell. For example, Jackson's importance is not in talking to Middle America about imperialism. They ultimately don't care. And since you don't have to convince them of reducing deficits, as this is a deeply held belief for them, as they want entire federal agencies abolished, our only appeal to them is to let us help. Let us join them in doing this, and that they are not our enemy, the fascist state is. But do you know who does need convincing? His generation. Jackson's generation believes more state, more government is the solution to their problems. Therefore, I think we need to temper our expectations of what Jackson's relevance is, except under the narrow conditions of what success means in the social media environment, i.e., engagement and ceaseless content demand where the algorithm reigns supreme. After all, there is a thirst for alternative media right now, and everyone out there is branding themselves as being dangerous voices that the elites do not want you to know about. However, none of this has stopped the hegemon that is the United States from expanding its hegemony. In fact, they've only become more hostile to their own citizenry, and the world is even more reliant on their debt, adding just over $2 trillion in the past 4 months alone. I have no issue with Jackson other than his adulation for New Deal-esque platforms. But I do take exception with those who despise Jackson and have the gall to lob criticism from the standpoint of endless failure. On the opposite end, I take issue with those who have claimed some sort of victory where there is none. We have to come together and figure out a way to end deficit spending. Whether Jackson has 1 million followers or 100 million, I do not see the relevance if this issue is not impeded by the growth of his popularity. All in all, it is of course not a negative that he has risen to such prominence online. But there is simply no evidence from either side that it has real-world consequences towards the aims of communists and the realization of communism itself. What we'd be attempting to do is much harder than gaining millions of followers on Twitter. We're trying to get the state to do something it knows it can't. Stop spending. Even per Minsky's financial instability hypothesis, we know how crucial it is to sustaining the production and realization of surplus value. Aggregate profits equal aggregate investment plus the government deficit. Minsky. Therefore, I can only conclude that many on the left and many in infrared don't actually know what winning looks like, or don't actually have the mentality of a winner. So, let me end this by quoting the greatest winner of all time, Michael Jordan. Winning has a price. And leadership has a price. So I pulled people along when they didn't want to be pulled. I challenged people when they don't want to be challenged. And I earned that right because my teammates came after me. They didn't endure all the things that I endured. Once you join the team, you live at a certain standard that I play the game, and I wasn't going to take anything less. Now, if that means I have to go out there and get in your ass a little bit, then I did that. You ask all my teammates, the one thing about Michael Jordan was he never asked me to do something that he didn't fucking do. When people see this, they're gonna say, well, he wasn't really a nice guy. He may have been a tyrant. Well, that's you, because you've never won anything. I wanted to win, but I wanted them to win and be part of that as well. I don't have to do this. I'm only doing it because it is who I am. That's how I played the game. That was my mentality. If you don't want to play that, don't play that way. Jordan has the hardware and real-world evidence of being a winner. Presently, neither the dysfunctional left or its dark twins in the infrared community can lay claim to the high bar of excellence and standards of what victory truly looks like in the battle they are engaged in, which is not with one another, nor even the meta of the social media game, but against the fascist state itself. I know this because winners don't actually have to declare victory nor use other measures of success. For us communists, anything less than overthrowing the fascist state is either an incomplete failure or a complete failure. Second prize for communists is just more capitalism and more state. Having said that, I wish Jackson good luck. I wish even infrared good luck, because they are going to need it. I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade, but one cannot claim such triumphs when we're down by 3 trillion fucking points. It is the same denialism that the left has lived under for decades, and we need to therefore reassess what winning actually looks like and entails.